Pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I went and talked to him. Okay. Not one of ours. I want to welcome everyone to our regular meeting of September 16th and recognize we have some scouts in the audience as well and former council members and whatnot here, so welcome everybody. Please note we're all in attendance. Scarlett? We do have, our first item is items from council, and I wanted to do a little rearranging, but first, anything, council, you want to bring up?
Can we pull D2 and D3?
Okay.
And also for future discussion, possibly, do we have a ordinance on panhandlers, or the people that are sitting on the corners of the streets and asking for money, primarily? Thomas?
The aggressive panhandling ordinance, there are ordinances in state law with regards to criminal trespass that might address that, but we do not have one on the books.
No local ordinance?
Correct.
Just something that's been brought to my attention, and I've noticed it, and it seems like it's becoming quite a few different intersections, more and more activity, and seems to be a concern for everybody's safety, I think.
My office has looked into that already at the request of, I've already forgotten who it was that asked me to look into it. And with specifically, there are some cities who are trying to pass ordinances that deal with aggressive panhandling. The problem with passing a panhandling ordinance specifically is that it's considered free speech, protected under the First Amendment, to solicit donations. And so it gets very difficult to regulate panhandling within a city. So if council would like for me to research that further and bring back a proposal, I'm happy to do that. I just want to be sure that everybody understands on the front end. It's a very delicate line to walk.
I understand. But yet we ask some of our vendors to pull permits when they want to sell on the street or so forth and so on. So
Right.
I don't know where you draw that line, but again, it's just, it seems to be becoming more apparent and more obvious out there. I hate for somebody to get hit, basically.
I agree.
Perhaps call it a commercial operation and charge a fee.
There you go. Well, I'm contemplating doing it myself if they're that successful.
I don't have any comment on that.
I was thinking I'd stop for Emmett. I don't know that I'd stop for anybody else.
That's
Gotcha.
it.
Okay, all right. Okay. That was interesting. And if you have more, you might want to visit with the attorney more later, so. Counsel, anything else?
I just have one thing. A lady called me today, and she was asking about when we have events downtown, the transit only runs, I think, till 4 o'clock, she says, and there's no way, if somebody wants to come to the events, they can't go back home. And if there was any way that we could extend that and have, like, the last run come out after the events or something, that way you would have people that want to come that would have some sort of means of transportation.
I'll be glad to contact the transit system. There's going to be a cost associated with it.
Right,
so.
but she was just asking if there was anything that could be done because, you know, there's other people that would like to come downtown, but they can't.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just have one question. If we have an answer now or if later, doesn't matter. I just promised I'd ask it. Somebody emailed me and asked me if I could ask about the cost savings associated with the garbage trucks. And have we found a cost savings associated with our moving to automated trucks? I'm sure we must have covered this at one time or another, but if there's an answer or if somebody could, it's at a future meeting.
We'll be glad to bring back a report.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we have covered it, but certainly can do that, provide information again.
Super, thank you.
Anything else? Just a couple, I had a couple points. Last week, there was a little confusion, and rightly so, about ordinances with public hearings and without. I've asked Thomas to take that and make it a section with public hearings and without, because I myself get confused. So you might see that in your next agenda. That'd be a little helpful. Let's see, I think that's it. We've got a couple things we want to rearrange in the agenda. There's a discussion, the Parks Commission wants to talk about an idea revolving around a dog park, and we can move them up in here in a minute. And also, we have an award. Let's do the award first.
Okay.
Ms. City Manager, you want to handle that?
Sure, I'll be glad to. Andrew's going to come up and speak, but just a few comments. The Purchasing Department has received for the 4th year in a row the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award for the department, which means that we've got good policies and good practices with the intent of making sure that we're providing best value for our services that we're bidding and procuring, and the process is solid. So it's the 4th year, as I said earlier, but I think of note is 26 cities in the state of Texas received this award and 69 in the United States. So we're kind of in the vanguard of that, and it's great work by the department. And I know 3 of those staff people are sitting back near the back, but Andrew's going to introduce them, and then I'm going to try to lift this award and bring it to you. It's heavy. So go ahead, Andrew, and then I'll come
Sure.
around.
Actually, I think she pretty much took most of the comments on the numbers, so no, I appreciate that. That pretty well wraps it up. But this is, something that we are very proud of. And again, this is the 4th year for the award, and we will continue to submit and hopefully improve the score every year and use it as a efficiency tool and improvement for the department. And yes, I do have the members of the purchasing staff here, Alana, Richard, and Thomas, if y'all stand. They're the ones that basically do this on a day-to-day basis and couldn't do it without them, and have got this department where they are today. So, thank you.
It is nice. It's very nice.
And I know they're appreciative of moving that up, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay. All right, the Parks Commission, we can go ahead and have you guys, we have a spokesperson, and also, I just want to recognize the Parks Commissioners. At least raise your hand, stand up real quick, if you want to own up to it. There you go. There's the Chairman, Ash. We appreciate what y'all do and the time you spend. We really do. Thank you. So, go ahead.
I'm going to give a brief overview of where we got to this point. Mayor, council members, over the past few months, the commission has been working on a master plan for Riverside Park. We conducted several public hearings during this time period and ranking projects and coming up with a project list. During that time, the commission ranked the projects that we brought back, and the dog park came up as one of the top ranking projects. And so the commission spoke and asked, how do we get moving forward with these projects? What would be the potential cost? And one of the things with a dog park is you really got to find the location before we can put a cost estimate on that location. So the commission decided to have committees formed, and one of those was a dog park location committee. And our chair, Ash, is here to explain how kind of that process went.
As Ash is coming up, I want to point out this is a project that the commission is going to take on fundraising for, so it'd be private money spent if we move forward with it, so, which I think is great.
Correct. Appreciate the opportunity to Mr. Mayor and the council. Thank you. We formed a location committee. It was myself and Jamie Brown and Mark Hinojosa, commission members, are there in attendance as well, and really appreciate the hard work and due diligence that we brought to it. We looked at several locations, and I think they might be available to Colby, if we can bring them up. If you look at the screen, there's several locations that we looked at near the State Street entrance and the pump house, also towards the Texas Zoo. We looked at the Horsemen's Club Arena and also up by the old Little League facilities. And we took a number of things into consideration: ease of access to the potential location, parking, and other amenities that are in place, electric, water, the things you need to have a dog park in South Texas because of heat and other issues. And so when all that was said and done, we weighed out those different amenities and the pluses and minuses of each, and the Horsemen's Club Arena kind of rose to the top, and that was our committee's recommendation back to the commission, and the commission unanimously supported repurposing the old Horsemen's Club Arena to be the location of the dog park. Again, some of those reasons, you've got two main streets right there, Red River with the improvements to Red River, Memorial Drive, lots of parking right across the street that already exists that really wouldn't infringe on anything that might be taking place at Riverside Stadium. There's fencing along all sides of it, and from looking at it, really, I believe 2 to 3 sides of it probably wouldn't have to be renovated at all as far as the fencing structure. There's already water, there's electricity, there's some other buildings there that could be repurposed, or the slabs could be used for different features in that dog park. So those are sort of the reasons that we came up with it. And with it sitting empty and not any use, we figured it's a good opportunity really to repurpose what's becoming a little bit of an overgrown and a bit of an eyesore in Riverside Park. And the commission felt wholeheartedly in support of this as well, and that was our recommendation now to bring it to council as the location for the dog park. And we're already looking, as you mentioned, at a couple other subcommittees that have formed, one to look at amenities that go into a dog park, and another to explore fundraising opportunities, not only within the community, but around the country. There's foundations and such that have funded these in other cities, so we'll look to them as well. So if there are any questions, I'd like to recognize also the committee members, the commission members that are in attendance. I know James is here, and Jamie, and Mark, and Lewis, and Laura, and just really appreciate all the hard work, and thanks to them for getting us to this point, because this was something that citizens brought forth to us, and we're very vocal in supporting. So we're proud to be able to bring that voice forward on behalf of the citizens of Victoria.
Very good. Council?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Do you have any preliminary cost estimates or anything like that at all at this point?
I know in
this is
speaking
very
with-
early in the process.
It's still early. I know in speaking with Colby, they range anywhere from about 70,000 to about 125, I think, roughly, in kind of a range. It depends on amenities that go into them, but I can let Colby speak because I think he has experience in.
In building a dog park, it's all going to depend on the amenities. It's kind of like with a playground. You can build one, fairly simple, or you can go Taj Mahal. So it really, that bringing back that subcommittee on the amenities will help determine. There's some few things that you have to have as far as irrigation, established turf, and things of that nature, fencing. But the cost will vary depending on how large you want to make it, and those are the factors that I explained. So I really want to caution, it's really too early to say what that dollar figure is going to be.
Are there any standard amenities for a dog park?
No, I've seen them built different ways. Of course, fencing, you definitely want irrigation, a double entrance so that when one dog's coming in, another dog's not trying to run out. I would recommend, if you're only building one in the city, I'd recommend a small and large dog area that can be separated just through a fence. But it's really just up to the imagination as far as how far you want to go with it. So that's kind of basics. You would want some water, a water faucet, for both humans and the dogs. But that's where this location had some of those amenities that they were looking at.
Thank you.
Question. Sorry. How do you keep it clean?
You will have doggy bags there, but also that's where the irrigation comes into play. One of the most important things about a dog park is having that irrigation where you can run that through night and to wash any waste materials out, and that will help your turf. If you have dog urine and things of that nature, it will damage the turf if it's not properly irrigated.
And having been in other dog parks in other cities, there's an education component, but dog owners that tend to use the parks are very particular about keeping the park clean and responsible in cleaning up after their animals. So certainly that's an expectation that I think would be set and hopefully lived up to, but it seems to work in other locations as well.
Colby, are you thinking about this being a permanent home for the dog park?
If council recommends or approves this, yes, it would be a permanent structure.
Because I'm thinking about later on, whenever you have special events in the park, and that parking area is utilized for, baseball games and other,
I think that could be the same as any of our other amenities that, if we need to close an amenity for a large event or something, that would be, at the discretion of the department or the city to decide, okay, we're going to close this facility down.
for
We
the
have
weekend or
that.
during the event or something like that?
You could, I could see
Okay.
that if need be.
It just that I was thinking of crossing, the street back and forth, because, if you were going to make it a permanent, then could you maybe have some parking spaces out there, maybe eventually?
I think there's room for growth there, that if you
Mm-hmm.
needed to put parking in, you could. I don't think that it's a requirement to start off with.
Right, but I was just looking for the future, because you want to think if we're going to leave it there, what additions can we do? Is it big enough so we can expand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's just over a 3-acre piece of property there. I think that's pretty big enough for the dog park. And you've got the area, where the road goes into the arena right there. You have some area that you could do some parking there
there.
if need be.
Okay.
You also have the small parking that's north of that, where you can enter the nature trail, so people can use that too.
Riverside Complex. The back of that complex has a pretty
Oh,
good
okay,
sized parking.
I remember that. Closer to the V part back there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This is probably a question more for the attorney. Is there any liabilities for the city's standpoint?
Anytime you get into an activity like that, there's always the potential for liability. However, in a situation like this, what you're really looking at is premises defect liability, and the city has a lot of immunities from that. Speaking in purely hypothetical terms, it's way too difficult to say yes or no. And so I would have to examine a situation when it arose, specifically based on the facts.
Okay, thank you.
Can't be much different than any liability that was associated with horses, so,
Let's say a playground or
but, yeah, any other activity, and of
chance of
course,
someone getting hurt.
I've seen people come down with 3 dogs and open the car and let them run loose in the park now. I mean, it's always, yeah. But- Okay. I would suppose, this council probably would like to know what you're getting into. So in other words, before a final commitment, I don't know that if it's all donated funds, a cost estimate is not relevant to us unless we're participating, right? So what I'm getting at is when. At what point does this council say, yes, go forward? And if you're going to spend time getting cost estimates, we need to agree to a spot.
I have another question.
Yes.
Okay, we had a contract with the Horsemen's Arena. Are we going to have a contract with the, it's going to be part of ours?
It's a city facility. It'll be city managed, city run. It's coming from the Parks Commission as an idea, and they're just willing to do the fundraising. The funds will actually come to the city, and then we'll oversee it, write
So we'll be
checks.
overseeing it, and then
Oh, yes.
it'll be reimbursed?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of?
It's a city project.
So even though the funds will be raised to construct it, the ongoing maintenance will be a city burden then?
That's correct.
And I think I should address the issue, the Horsemen's Arena, because that was I guess, interesting time to work through that with them. As Ash mentioned, I guess y'all have received feedback from the public about the way that facility currently, the condition of it. You don't like it, the public doesn't like it, and that prompted y'all's decision to maybe repurpose it and get it back healthy looking and whatnot. And, I and the city manager, and maybe Mr. Alvarez was part of that a little bit, I think Mr. Halpaska, when we worked with the Horsemen's Arena, of course, they were under contract to maintain the facility in exchange for its use. And anyone can tell that didn't occur to keep it in good shape. And that's what prompted us to address it, that, if we break that contract, then we could go in and perhaps spend some money if we chose, and it would remain as a Horsemen's Arena. It was, our intention was to allow that, and we asked them to help. And Mr. Halleck has to keep nodding, you were there, and, we said, well, you guys got to help us out with this, and since that has not really occurred, it's just kind of sat dormant. And so I think it is time to address whether or not this is something we want to do.
One of the key considerations was the extreme condition that the Horsemen's Arena was in. It was unsafe to be used for an event until we poured a bunch of money into it. And so that's unfortunate, be that as it may. But we have to, you can't have grandstands that might collapse or things, there's a whole bunch of things about it, and it was going to be a large cost estimate to bring it back up to a Horseman's Arena. But in this day and age, it has to be specific dimensions. This thing cannot match those dimensions. It's like playing sandlot baseball as opposed to playing on a regulation field. So you couldn't have a sanctioned event at it anyway because it didn't match the dimensions. There were other things that was also problematic with the facility. But that being said, I guess what I would like to see if council would like to entertain, allow these people to go forward and come back with us some ideas that they have, and let's see how far they can go with it. I think we ought to encourage them to do this. Let's see what they can do in raising funds and designing this thing and making it work. I think we should encourage this.
You want to agree to this site? Is y'all ready to do that? Or?
I had a few questions real quick. Where are we with the severing of that contract with the Horsemen's Club?
It's been severed, and we've
Have they
taken
taken all
possession of it.
They've taken all their equipment out, and so forth?
They've taken some of their equipment out. They left some of the panels up if we were going to open it back up as an arena, and they would like to get those panels out if we're not going to use it for an arena. So, but because since we took it over, where's Colby? Colby, where are you? You're hiding from me. When did we take that back over? August? July, August?
July.
Okay, so it's been locked, so there's been no access from the public allowed, and Parks has been gradually doing some cleanup. There's still some cleanup that needs to be done. We've got weeds, and I noticed today there's some litter in there. I'm not sure how that's getting in there, but, so it's been locked.
And then the other part was, should we take a vote, put it on the agenda and take a vote on that? So they have a definitive that council wants them to use that site, or do you just want a consensus?
We can
move
Come back in
I
another.
think it's wise to come back and y'all vote on a resolution for the location, and then that way these guys can get out and get their work done. So we can put it on the October 7th meeting.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that's, we can sure do that, and we'll also get feedback and, between now and then, so.
Mr. Mayor, just one more comment. My only concern, the location to me, and I know we'll discuss it more in depth, the location's fine. My only thought would be, as you move forward, would be, what would be the reoccurring costs? And I guess you don't know now, I guess it depends on what this eventually looks like. That'd be my only concern with these, or do we even have a ballpark idea what the reoccurring cost to the city would be for such a park?
It's going to be minimal as far as, it's not going to require another staff member. It's going to take us, some time to go mow the facility and weed eat and stuff to that nature. You're going to have some utility costs, but I don't foresee anything large scale that I would need to come back and say I need another staff member.
So it should be pretty minimal then?
Yes, it should be very minimal.
Well, that's good. That's reassuring.
And let me add something else, that the Eagle Scouts came to one of our public meetings and offered as a Eagle Scout project to build some amenities in that dog park if it were to come to fruition. So there's already a cost savings there and support in the community to build this project to help the Eagle Scouts. So
Super.
I would say this too, if we'll bring back the resolution, and assuming that would pass, don't think of it as repurposing a Horseman's Arena. I would, that you mentioned a while ago about some fencing that exists. Make a facility that's going to work. If we need to pull all that fence out and reorient it, do it. Make it a dog park. Don't make it a dog park that used to be a Horseman's Arena. You know what I'm saying? I have found in my observation that if you're going to build something that's going to be there 20, 30 or longer years, do it right, that make it functional and easy to maintain so that cost is lower. Just wanted to throw that out there. So,
I did want to make one additional comment, and been going to Parks Commission meetings for many years. And way back, as far as I can remember, a dog park was always on the top 10 list. It's been in the top 10 list for as long as I have been around watching it. And it seems to be a perennial favorite. This is an opportunity to do it very little cost or no cost. I think we ought to at least look at it, see what can be done.
And it's well said, and with respect to Horseman Arena, I have been talking with different groups, and there's been a discussion in the community for years about a new arena. You know, I don't know who will do that, but I'm aware that there are many groups interested. So perhaps in the short-term future, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, maybe a facility will be available for that sport again. I hope so, you know.
And
but
one of the
time
county
will tell.
commissioners has worked actively on that and continues to do so.
Right.
This is a bill, one that would be regulation size and with the amenities that people with expensive horses expect in this day and age.
And not in a floodplain, et cetera, et cetera.
So on and so on.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so we'll bring it back on October
October 7th.
7. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for y'all's time and your work.
Thank you.
Is that everything?
That we're moving out of order, yes.
They were moving out of order, all right.
It's not
Get an
everything.
agenda and we shuffle it all up. Okay, we'll go into ordinances and items with public.
Citizens.
Citizens communication, yeah, we need that. Sure don't want to, this is a time for anyone to come up and speak about anything on the agenda. And as a courtesy to others, just try to keep your comments to 5 minutes. We need you,
Said anything that's not on the agenda.
anything at all.
All right, good. Goes out in just a second. Good evening. My name is Jenny Stafford, and I live at 120 Weirden, and I serve as the Executive Director of Midcoast Family Services, located just across the street at 120 South Main. I'm here tonight to inform you that October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. While we're still a couple of weeks away from that month, I understand that tonight's meeting is the last one before the start of the month. The observance of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month began in 1987 with the intent to remember those who had died because of domestic violence, to celebrate those lives who survived, and to help connect victims to services. It was also the intent to bring the events of domestic violence into the public eye. However, this year I have a feeling that the events that we plan will pale in comparison to the media coverage of actual domestic violence events that have played out on the national stage. It's one thing to hear statistics and stories secondhand. It's quite another to witness a violent Ray Rice attack and the subsequent events from the view of an elevator security camera. The idea that that event was perpetrated by someone who says he loves his victim is almost unfathomable. Love should never hurt. But unfortunately, events like that one that occurred in the elevator of Atlantic City by a professional athlete also happens right here in our own city. In fact, according to the most recent crime statistics that I could find, our Victoria police officers and sheriff deputies respond to at least 2 domestic violence incidents every single day of the year. That means last night, and the night before, and the night before that, a woman was pushed, punched, or knocked to the ground by a man who said he loved her. Her life and those of the people that she loved may have been threatened if she attempted to call for help. I'm here tonight to ask you to join us this year in observing National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and there are a couple of things that I'm asking you to do. First of all, Wednesday, October the 1st, is Go Purple Day. For that one day, we're asking all Victorians to wear something purple, the color which represents our cause. It's a chance to state in a public way that domestic violence has no place in our civilized world. But I'm also here to ask you to examine your own attitudes towards victims. Following the Ray Rice video, I was shocked to hear statements like, "Didn't she bring it on? She probably provoked him by mouthing off. Didn't she punch him first? And what about the fact that she's married to him and continues to stand by him?" Somehow it seems that many people wanted to excuse the assault by blaming the victim. Sadly, most batterers would agree with those statements. If she wouldn't have done that or said that or gone there, he wouldn't have hit her. Assign guilt where guilt is due, but remember there's no excuse for abuse. But I'm also here to thank you. Many of you were on the council when we approached you about using CDBG funds to help build a new domestic violence shelter back in 2000 or 2009. Since we opened the doors of our new shelter in February of 2012, more than 1,360 victims have walked through our doors for help. They have found new hope and a new beginning there. We have served 59,000 meals and answered 2,560 hotline calls. Thank you for trusting us with the public funds and allowing us to build a facility that offers hope and safety for a better life. I'm going to leave a packet for all of you that's got information about Domestic Violence Awareness Month, about Go Purple Day, and about statistics across our state. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and remember to wear purple on October the 1st.
Thank you, Ms.
Can I
Stafford.
just leave these here, or?
Or let's put it in the chair right there, and we'll get them as we come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, citizens' communication still open, if anyone would like to come forward.
I'm Jim Stokes, 307 Buena Vista. On April the 1st, I and others spoke to council to support a building for a Victoria Visitor Center. Since then, there's been a number of meetings to discuss the proposal. Council has an alternative proposal to purchase and operate a mobile visitor center. I'm not here today to speak against or for either one of those proposals. Since April the 1st, I have visited visitor centers in McKinney, LaGrange, Temple, Nacogdoches, Natchitoches, Louisiana, and the museum at Washington on Brazos. I was never an expert on tourism. I'm not now and don't plan to be, but I am a tourist from time to time. What I'm here for is to share a few observations I've made and to make one strong recommendation. Each of the visitor centers I mentioned works with a board or committee of community volunteers and stakeholders in their efforts to attract visitors. McKinney and Temple relocated their centers to attract more visitors, both successfully. Temple has increased the number of visitors 5-fold by relocating. McKinney, Nacogdoches, and Natchitoches centers are located downtown amidst retail shops and restaurants. Natchitoches has 1,500 to 2,000 visitors per month, compared to Victoria's 800 to 900 per year, as it was reported. All of the centers are open at least 6 days a week. What I took away from these visits and discussions and the editorial this week in The Advocate is this: Victoria needs a comprehensive multi-year plan to guide its CVB staff and the council. This council and the CVB are stewards of a sizable amount of tax revenue generated by visitors. The responsibility of stewardship should demand a plan, with input from stakeholders and some thoughtful citizens. Call it a board if you like, but to establish clear objectives for the CVB's operations, to lay out concrete measures to determine the effectiveness of our program, and to recommend what needs to be done to make Victoria more visitor-friendly. Absent a plan, the council is subject to a never-ending parade of ideas. Some ideas are good, and some ideas are not so good. But a good plan will establish priorities, and the value of ideas and suggestions can be measured against principles spelled out in an effective plan. With a good plan in place, I truly believe it would be an easy decision for the council to build a visitor center, to mount one in a vehicle, or not to have one at all. But we need a plan.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Citizens' communication still open. If anyone else would like to come forward?
James Worden, 507 South William, Mayor, members of council. I just want to concur with what Mr. Stokes said. I didn't know he was going to say that tonight, but he pretty much said what I would have said, but quite a bit better. I appreciate what Councilmember Solis did in regard to what she felt was the right thing to do with the mobile visitor center and where that was going. I will say that Councilmember Solis was on the Convention and Visitors Bureau bus where we toured Victoria, so I know she has a strong interest in Victoria and its attractions, and I know that she's got the best interest of our city at heart in doing that. So I hope y'all consider that, what she said, kind of summed up what a lot of people in the community are kind of laughing about, the ones that I run into with regard to the visitors, the mobile truck, whatever you want to call it. There's nothing wrong with it theoretically, but I think it definitely needs to be examined further and this may not be the right time. What Mr. Stokes is saying is huge in terms of what we're missing out. We've been in the lodging industry in Victoria since 1998, before there were all the new hotels and all the other properties. And the situation is different now than it is, even 2 years ago. There's a lot of properties, there's a lot of new development outside of Victoria. So the demand is not what it was. If we want to continue to grow this business, we're going to have to make Victoria an attractive place. Just looking at some of the numbers that we're talking about, if you consider that let's say we've got 1,500 rooms in Victoria on a given night. If those rooms were filled up 2 additional nights over the course of 52 weeks, you're looking at over $1 million worth of additional tax revenue. So I think it behooves us to listen to what Mr. Stokes says. We need to come up with a plan. We need to have a Convention and Visitors Bureau that is partnering not only with the lodging industry, but with those that have interest in seeing Victoria grow, increasing the sales tax dollars, bringing more restaurants, bringing more attractions, and making the attractions that we have something that people want to come and see and stay overnight. So I thank y'all for looking at this. I hope y'all investigate it further, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Weirden. Citizens communication is still open. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close citizens communications and move into our ordinances.
And each of these items does have a public hearing tonight. The first is to discuss and approve an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Victoria, Texas, authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of City of Victoria, Texas certificates of obligation, Series 2014, approving and authorizing an official statement and distribution thereof, a purchase contract and paying agent registrar agreement, approving and authorizing all other instruments and procedures related thereto, declaring an emergency, and providing for an immediate effective date. Mayor and Council, because this is an emergency reading, in addition to having a public hearing, we also need to approve this vote by 5 affirmative votes.
Well, let's open the public hearing. If anyone wants to speak to C1, please do so now. Seeing none, we'll close public hearing on C1. Andrew, did you have comments?
Yes, Mayor, members of council, this ordinance would authorize the issuance, sale, and delivery of the certificates of obligation, Series 2014. The city went into the market this morning, had another successful bond transaction, which Dusty's going to give a little information on that. But just as a reminder, the proceeds from these bonds will be used for the following street projects: work to be done in Castle Hills Royale, Castle Hills North, Anthony Road, and then North Heights Phase 1. Like I said, Bob and Dusty from RBC are here, and then Noel from McCall is here. Noel does have the executed, or the fully executed ordinance that he can pass out here in a bit, but I think Dusty was going to just kind of give a brief recap on the transaction.
Thank you, Andrew. Again, for the record, my name is Dusty Traylor with RBC Capital Markets. Together with Bob Henderson, we have the opportunity to serve the city of Victoria as your financial advisor. As Andrew said, we entered into the market today to help negotiate the final terms on the sale of your certificates of obligation transaction. That certificate of obligation transaction is going to deliver $6 million into the city's project fund, and we had a very favorable interest rate environment this morning. We ended up with an all-in TIC, that's the interest rate on the bonds, if you consider all the cost of issuance and everything, at 3.349%. If you look at just the interest rate on the bonds themselves, the rate is 2.943%. That is a fixed rate of interest for 20 years. Those bonds are also callable in 9 years at the city's options. At rates this low, I don't know that we're going to refinance them in 9 years, but you'll have the option. But in leading up to this transaction, worked very closely with Gilbert and Andrew to prepare the preliminary official statement and to conduct conference calls and visits with the rating agency. Standard & Poor's affirmed the city's AA credit rating, which is a very, very strong and positive rating. They affirmed that at AA with a stable outlook. So all in all, this is a very positive sale, and it speaks highly to the way that the city of Victoria is run, the way you guys manage the city, govern the city, your economics, and financial condition. So congratulations. We both recommend approval of this. Yes,
I do
sir.
have a question, since I got the city financial advisor. I was hearing on the radio something about, and it's not related to this, but it is, it's related to, I was hearing that municipal bonds for certain institutions won't be able to be held for, by certain, you know what I'm talking about, the ability of certain institutions to hold municipal bonds won't be counted in their favor by the government.
I think that may be talking about the new Basel II
Yes,
regulations
I think
that are
that's
out
what
there.
you're talking, what I heard.
And that is part of some new technical regulations that are held by banks as they account for some municipal bonds that are held in their portfolios, especially certain types of derivative transactions.
That's what will that have any impact on the ability of the city to sell its bonds, or municipalities anywhere?
In the manner in which the city of Victoria finances its projects right now, it really should not. A lot of that stuff has to do with credit agreements, some variable rate type products and things like that. You guys have historically always sold fixed rate bonds to the bond market. So as of right now, it really shouldn't have a material impact on the city of Victoria.
That's all I care about. Thank you.
I understand that was really more about how the banks show it on their statements and less about those of us. Yeah.
Function of capital reserves for bank safety issues. It's not a reflection of the credit of the municipal.
Right, that's kind of what, I had heard about that as well, so. Okay, very good, very good. And Gilbert and Andrew didn't give you a hard time. They worked well with you.
They're always a
I'm
pleasure
kidding.
to work with.
We appreciate you guys a lot, and y'all do a good job for us, so we do appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank you.
figuring out what I was trying to ask. I appreciate it.
Noel is here. He has the ordinance and can answer any questions obviously related to the legalities. Bob and I will try not to answer questions related to legalities.
Thank you, Dusty. Mayor, members of council. My name is Noel Valdez with the law firm McCall, Parkerson Horn. Our pleasure to serve as bond counsel to the city. I do want to say that pricing occurred today, so the ordinance that was distributed in your packets doesn't currently have numbers. I do have ordinances that have final numbers that I can distribute, but I will tell you that the only difference between the ordinances I have in my hand and the ordinances that were in your packet were completion of the pricing numbers that were just given to you by your financial advisor.
This is what we'll be approving, is what he's
That's
handing
correct.
out.
When we take a motion, we'll be taking a motion to approve the version that he is handing out.
That I'm handing out, and I'll also hand a couple of documents I need executed.
Thank you.
Very good. I think the most interesting thing for, I don't know about you guys, was hearing which streets we're going to fix. That's always good news, so.
Those are rebuilt streets. It's not just
Better than we thought,
Thank you. Do you have-
So this was a 20-year
Yes.
term?
Yes. We were taking bets whether Bob was going to get tackled there, so.
Yeah, last time
Here you
I
go.
tried to do that, I got tackled.
Well, I gave him a look and said, okay. I think Bob's safe.
Might be good for him.
Almost done signing. You act like I'm hard to get a hold of, getting me to sign it.
Mayor, do you need a motion to adopt C1?
We sure do.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Double check to make sure I got them all. There's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That passes. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Very good interest rate indeed.
Very good.
All right. Item C2 is an ordinance approving and adopting a budget for operating the municipal government of the City of Victoria for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2014, and ending on September 30th, 2015, appropriating money for the various funds and purposes for such budget, including appropriations of money to pay interest and principal sinking fund requirements on all indebtedness, repealing all conflicting ordinances and appropriations, providing for severability, and declaring an effective date. This is the third and final reading of the budget ordinance.
Okay, let's open the public hearing on C2. If anyone would like to speak specifically to the budget. Now's the time. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
We adopt?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the
Yes.
budget? Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead, Ms. Elise.
Okay. Like I said last time, I really think that we ought to consider reprogramming that money from the hot funds. I know they said, you said it wasn't our money. Yes, it is our money. We were elected to handle the city, you know, to make decisions for our constituents. And I do believe that this money, whether it's the Sales Tax Development Corporation, general fund money, revenue bonds, CO bonds, we are supposed to make decisions because that's what we were elected for. And I do believe that we could use that money for something else that would be more appropriate. Long-term, you know, we could work with just saving that money and trying to get a convention center or just something else to attract people to Victoria.
I'm not far in disagreement from you. I just want to see a little bit more on the idea and don't want to kill it from the budget. I'm not thinking that I'm totally on board if it comes forward to a vote to do something with it. But I would like it to move forward just a little bit more, and that's why I'm okay with leaving it in the budget, Ms. Solis.
My views haven't, oh, sorry, Jeff. My views haven't changed since I supported your motion the last time, so.
I guess I look at it slightly different. It was proposed that we have a visitor center for $1 million to $1.5 million, depending on various renditions that we've seen in the past. This seemed like a more economical way to accomplish the same thing. It can be parked in a given location in different places. These can be tried. I consider it an innovative and very inexpensive way to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't say we don't need a fixed convention, a visitor's bureau. Do we need it now? Can we do it with this, do just as good of a job? When I got to compare 100,000 to 1 million to 1.5 million, that's why I lean this direction. Not that I don't agree that we will eventually need a visitor center as well. To me, this is more innovative way of handling that situation.
I want to make one comment. It just occurred to me that not everybody watching would remember what her motion was last time. Last time she made Councilman Solis made a motion to remove the Traveling Visitors Bureau truck from the budget, and I seconded that motion, although it was voted down.
I've had some additional thought, and I think our speakers earlier certainly it's where I was thinking on a couple of areas. We're getting ready here in the fall and into the winter and spring and reviewing our comprehensive plan. And what we've seen in the last number of years is a significant amount of investment towards tourism. And there's a lot of questions in the community, a lot of good ideas in the community. And I think as we move in that direction, in discussing that component of our tourism goals, what they are, what we want to accomplish, will bring more light and more focus on those things that we need to be doing. I feel like sometimes we're throwing out a lot of money, but what are we trying to ultimately achieve? I'd like to steer this idea and then all the other tourism ideas that are circulating towards that period when we talk about our comprehensive plan for Victoria and updating it and using that vehicle to determine what are the other items that we want to do. A visitor center, standalone facility, be it this vehicle, be it some other mechanisms or other ideas that are out there. And so my feeling at this point is to put the brakes on this for the time being and let that plan kick in, and those people that want to participate in our comprehensive plan conversations can bring those ideas. I also like the idea, one time we used to have a committee that kind of had oversight over the CVB. That kind of went away too. And I'd like to, maybe that might be another, similar to some of the other commissions and committees we have, might enter into that plan as far as the tourism component of our comprehensive plan. And I think I can support. I can support putting the brakes on this, the funding for this vehicle at the time, at this time.
Anybody making a motion, or are we just throwing out ideas here? All right, Councilman Solis and Councilman Alvarez, are these motions or just your thoughts?
Well, I mean, someone who makes an amendment, wants to make an amendment again, and that just depends. I'm not going to
Certainly
make the
can do
amendment.
that. This would be the time. This is our last vote on the budget.
I'd like to amend that we put it, remove that and just wait till we have a plan. Get together with some other people. And, I like the ideas of both of the gentlemen that spoke. I'm not against tourism. I'm just saying let's all put our heads together. Get a committee, get other people to work with LaRue and.
I'll second your amendment.
Looks like we have a motion and a second to remove that line item of $130,000 from the CDBG. 120, excuse me. Well, I would like to speak to it. I think we're losing sight of the fact that this is a $155 million budget. For some reason, this one little issue has taken over this topic. I don't know why. There are things in this budget we won't do, and there are things we'll add to it later in the year, which means it'll be changed, but it's the most important thing we do. With respect to this, I think Mr. Balknight put it very well. It's in there. It doesn't mean we're going to do it. We have plenty of time to talk about it. And something else I'd like to say, it does not ever mean we'll never have a standalone visitor center. I don't understand. This is not a replacement for that concept. The people that we pay to run our CVB now tell us we're not ready for any standalone. That's not the wisest, best use of our money. We would like to add this one small tool, and I say small, it's a lot of money, but this tool to what we do now, and I think that's perfectly acceptable. I have been told that there's no way we'll spend over $100,000 on this. I've had a few people call me and say, "Oh no, I could do that for 80." People who build these kind of things. I don't know, but let's get to that point. Let's just leave it. So I'm asking you to not remove it, leave it in there, and maybe we won't do it 6 months from now when we start researching it and getting more into it all. But don't forget, when we get to actually vote on the whole budget, there's a lot more in here. Pay raises for people, a lot of streets, et cetera, some serious business in here. So don't throw all that out over one issue. Those are my comments on the amendment. Does anyone want to speak to the amendment?
Just briefly, Mayor, this was brought to us during the budget process, and this is the time, that we've had a chance to really discuss it and get to know more about it. It's not like we've been thinking about it for 6 months. So it's been a very short window to even consider this. Second, again, and I will emphasize to council, we don't know all the costs here. There's some hidden costs, I suspect. I'm not satisfied or comfortable with the $5,000 estimate. When we travel out of town, we're not accounting for if we're going to pay fees to enter into these activities or events that we're going to. We're not accounting for overtime. We're not accounting for hotel, meals, any of those incidental costs when we travel out of town. I'm not seeing any numbers that would give us an idea of what those costs are going to be. And we're going to come back maybe in 6 months or when this vehicle is ready to go and we're ready to go out for bid on it. Oh, by the way, it's going to cost us another $50,000, $60,000, maintain, operate this vehicle. And here we go with, okay, we've already jumped halfway in. So what are we going to do?
Well,
Pony up another $50,000 or $60,000 for it. I don't know. That's just a guess.
The 120 included everything. It's what we anticipate, the maintenance on it, the fuel on it. Now, the overtime for travel, they will handle that through their budget. That crew flexes their time off quite a bit when they're working weekends and stuff. So they do have an overtime budget that they would have to work within. So, but the maintenance is included in that 120.
And
It also includes the electronics and things that they anticipate putting inside of it.
Thank you.
And if I may, during the presentation, it was clear that this wasn't the first one that's ever been done this way, and that places that have done this type of thing had very good success with it. I think it's worth a try. It's not like it's a half-baked idea. If it comes back, as Councilman Alvarez says, with a lot of hidden costs, then at that time we could put the quietus on it. It doesn't have to go forward. But I think it's worth at least leave it in the budget to look at it. closer to see what it's got. This is an innovative approach and a novel way of doing this. I don't think we have anything truly to lose. Let it bring forward, and we'll look at it when it comes up.
I hate to make a decision on something that we don't know all the details with. I think we need to give it some time. Because if not, you're saying no to possibly a great idea. Maybe a horrible idea. We don't know all the details.
Okay, council. Discussed it out. Very good discussion. I appreciate all that. No further comments. We'll vote on the amendment. And so a yes vote would be to remove it from the budget. So all those in favor, raise your hand. All those aye votes. Okay, that's 3. Those opposed? So it'll stay in the budget. Thank y'all for that good discussion. Now, we still have a motion and a second on the budget as a whole. Is there anything else y'all want to? It's a big topic.
Well, I had a bunch of questions, but
Okay, this would be the time to do it.
I'll start with the police department.
Which page are you on, Ms. Solis?
Page 16 of the budget.
16?
Yes.
Okay.
Could you, the tab, Ms. Solis, which tab?
It's page 16, but I don't think I have the new.
Oh, on the discussion?
Yes, on the
General
old one.
fund.
Yeah, it's a general fund. It's on the,
There no.
On the highlights and assumptions?
the highlights, the budget workshop highlights and assumptions.
Yeah, may I make a comment for the council members? The page numbers are good regardless of the tab you're in. So
Yep.
she says 16, you don't have to worry about the tab.
Oh, okay.
So,
They are, yes.
yeah, just for clarification.
Okay.
Page 16.
And it's the original budget. I didn't change the pages, but I think everything
Yeah,
pretty
it's
much
still
stays the
page
same.
16, capital
Okay.
outlay expenditures.
On the capital outlay items, we're replacing a 2002 Tahoe with another Tahoe, and last year, we bought those Tahoes for $32,375. This year, we're buying them for $41,150. That's a 28% increase.
The towers that's being replaced, it's not a police package. It was a traffic that was just put in. There's now a fully patrol high-speed vehicle, per se. So the new vehicle has to be put in with the new infrastructure inside of it. The other one doesn't have nothing of that. So
Okay.
the extra cost is because the other items that need to be added to it and be a police package.
So it's being put together at the,
For a patrol vehicle. The other
right,
one's not a
but it's
patrol
coming
vehicle.
in already with the
Correct.
strobe lights and everything.
No, well,
We will install
add
those, but
all
we got to
that.
install that into the police package. The other one was not a police cruiser. There's a big difference in vehicles.
Okay, but the additional fund, the 41,000 includes the strobe lights or?
Everything,
no?
it's a turnkey, that's a
Okay, it's a
turnkey.
Okay. Okay, and then we also have some in-car video cameras. That's what we approved last time?
That's correct, Ms. Elise. A few months ago, y'all agreed on doing about 3/4 of the video cameras in this year's budget, and with also the computer, MDTs, now it's Panasonic, I believe. That's being done. The other quarter would be done in 2015, to the whole 100% of it done.
Okay.
Get started early.
Okay, you also have adding ticket writer software system, and it's coming out of their budget, it's not coming out of the IT department?
No, they're buying the software, yes.
Okay, is the IT department going to be taking care of anything that goes on?
Installing it and everything else, helping with the integration of it.
Okay, it's
But
just
the actual
being
software
budgeted?
purchase, but it's not an internal service charge, like if you're referring to
Okay.
that, correct?
Yes, okay, so it's going to be out of their budget.
That's correct.
Do we know how many cars and Tahoes do we currently have? Because I know we're going to Tahoe, so how many cars do we still have that we're going to have to change out?
Daryl, you have that number? You mean for PD side of it?
Yes, only for
Okay.
PD.
Yeah, we've got about 35 total cars. I don't have with me how many cars or 35 total vehicles. I don't want to speak out, but I would guess that we've got less than about 9 left that
Okay,
are
'cause
actual cars.
The two Crown Victorias that you were replacing with the Impalas, So we are going to have some Impalas, I mean,
Those are detective cars.
oh, okay.
They're not going to be, they're not used for patrol.
Okay, so those are, but they're still in the budget for the police department?
Yeah,
I was
yes,
wondering
ma'am.
why we
But
still
they're
had,
detective cars.
They're
So
detective
it's a
cars.
different, the car's rigged differently, the whole 9 yards.
Purpose of it's different.
okay,
When you say police vehicle and detective, that's how we distinguish between the two for the budget purpose.
okay,
Those are unmarked. They're not marked.
Okay.
They don't have the same lighting system, none of that.
I think that's all I had for that one. The next one's going to be the parks,
Which page?
Page.
page 18. I'm just
18, okay.
We have the renovation of one softball field at the adult softball complex. Kobe, are we going to, when are we going to do something about the concession stand? Do you have it anywhere in the budget sometime in the near future?
It's not in this current budget, but we are looking into our different facilities as far as that facility. We have done some upgrades to that facility. We've painted it. We've repaired the cracked wall that is in there. I know there were some air condition issues, but those have been fixed. There's a few of the perceived electrical problems were not. They were just, we had to rearrange how where they were plugged in. So, it is an older building, but that's we are doing ongoing maintenance on it. And that would be reflected in just the general part of my budget under building maintenance.
Okay. Is there any way that you could get some funding somewhere to get, right there where the concession stand is at, the level of the ground, the concrete is not level with the gravel?
Okay.
And I've seen people in wheelchairs trying to make it up that little, they kind of have a little ramp there, and they just go whoosh to get on top of the concrete. It's hard for them.
That's easily fixed.
Okay, something to level that, because, you have people that go out, see their grandkids and they're in wheelchairs, and it's hard for them.
That's easy.
Okay, what exactly are we going to be doing at the softball field?
That is the fourth stage in renovating the fields at the softball field. It's overseeding, putting in a top dressing on those fields. I believe that process was started 3 years ago on a rotation of each one of those fields, and this will be the final year for that project.
Okay, so that's the final field, you got all of them done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, now on page 22, this goes back to Gilbert.
Kobe's did a good job, and maybe you want to keep him up here.
Okay, and
Page 22,
Yes.
revenues.
yes, on the softball complex and the adult complex, the revenues that you have on there, is that just the rental, or do you have other monies in there?
Okay, which one you gonna do first? The sports complex?
Both, well, it's a sports complex.
Sports complex for $100,000.
Uh-huh.
That's the youth sports complex technically. That's the tournaments and everything else.
Oh, that includes the tournaments
Yeah,
too?
the 25,000 below that is adult softball complex, where basically that entity has a lease program with the individual out there, and that money reverts back to general fund that's that 25,000.
But the sports complex also has a lease, a separate lease. And there's the figures,
Yeah, the youth sports complex and the adult are kept separate.
right, I understand.
Okay.
So the rental fees are included in there
The
with
adult complex rental fee is at 25.
okay,
The youth sports complex plus the tournaments and everything else and lease that's
Okay,
over
it's
there is
together.
at 100,000.
okay, gotcha. And on page 23, under charges for services, the intermedics revenue.
I haven't changed the name. Basically, that's our ambulance billing company. Now it's called something other than that, but that's our billing company,
That's a billing company?
ambulance.
Okay. Under fines and forfeitures, the time payment city portion, what is that exactly?
Some individuals were found guilty. They can pay out their payments out in partial payments. So the state has a fee associated to there for their portion of the money too as well. That goes to the state, and we get a little portion out of that too.
Is that the extra $3 or $6 or something like that?
No, that's something different.
That's something different? And that money goes to the state, you say?
There's a portion allocated, there's a monthly report done. The state, out of this monthly allocation, like a loan payment, well, reimbursement to us, payment to us, portion that goes to the state, and the city keeps the rest. The
Is
items
that
that-
above and beyond the ticket?
That's with a ticket.
With the ticket?
Yeah, there's a form calculation, how much of that ticket the state gets, and we get the rest.
Okay.
The item you're referring to a while ago, that's just a special revenue side. That money is
And they
set,
just collect it and go
allocated.
straight?
Yeah, that's just for a specific purpose, like there's a fine, there's a dollar collection, a $2 collection, all that's set aside for security or any improvements on the municipal court. That's in the special revenue section. It had nothing to do with general fund.
Okay. Okay, then on page 98, or in the tab that says 28, or the, it's going to be the fire department, I think.
Fire department,
Yes.
banner, okay.
Under personnel, you have 12 additional firefighters and EMT positions. That budget amount, is that for 12 months, or is that for how many months?
The item that's in the budget right now is a full 12 months cost. We expect to start going and hire within, hopefully on board by January. There's a time difference there. We assume that. Money is not going to be spent on anything else. It's going to be stay right there. There's no difference as to when we have any vacancies in other departments, because we budget full positions from that area. So that, I don't know if did I answer your question?
No, I just want to make sure that,
That
in
money's
case.
gonna stay there. It's not
That
gonna-
money's going to
it's not
stay
gonna
there, it's not
trickle.
going to go to the construction, okay?
If it's used on something, it's going to come back with council for your approval on that. Like we did, let me give you an example. We did that with the video camera and the MDTs. We came back to y'all and asked you, we have the police department payroll that's coming under budget because of vacancies. We'd use that money to acquire that equipment now. I can see something happen like that in the future, but if it does, it would come in before council.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye on it.
The other day when we were awarding the bid for the fuel, and we said that it's on page 59, no, let me see.
On the VES
Wait, hold
fund,
on. The VES fund, because you know what, I didn't tab it, I remember,
that's on the vehicle equipment service fund tab.
okay, I know I didn't tab it though.
We're talking about discussion we had when we were buying the fuel.
Yes,
A
and
while
how
back.
much the county reimburses us,
If you
and,
look at page 9 of that fund, I'll give you some time to get to that point. That worksheet itself shows all the revenues for that particular fund. And I'm going to address the 2015 year. If you go down almost past halfway, you'll see $659,000 and then a $1.13 million number there. The $659,000 is the money that we receive from the county and outside agency for fuel purchase. The $1.13 million is for the internal departments within the city. So we get approximately about 1.78. The county is charged dollar for dollar what we cost plus an 8% service fee. Of course, I think we buy about 1.9, 1.8, something like that, rounded 1.9. The difference would be your inventory storage. You don't want to just have no fuel. Did I answer hopefully the question?
yes, I see it now. I just didn't tab it. I didn't get a tab anymore.
Well, that's,
Yeah, sure. Well, let's go back to page 38 on the capital improvement programs.
capital improvement,
Mhm.
38.
Page 38. I know we've talked about this before. I'm talking about project number 75, the One Lynn Street construction project.
Which project? I'm sorry, Ms. Elise. Which
The
number?
One Lynn Street construction project.
Wallen Street, number 75, okay,
Yes.
the $4 million.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, the timeline for that is in 2018 and 19. I don't know that street's gonna last that long.
Wait.
Is there any way that we could do a hot overlay on that?
I think Lynn Short might have some comments on that, and he's been looking into that.
I think Lynn's, Mr. Alvarez asked Lynn last week to look at alternatives, and Lynn is looking at that. And I think you're still looking at that. We're not ready to report back to try to do some leveling up or some shoring up of that street. So he's working on some solutions.
Okay.
Another, keep in mind, we always come back on an annual basis, sometime twice a year, we talk about CIP. It's always a moving target.
That was all my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. No one's jumping at the chance. This budget represents a tremendous amount of work, and we've all been in attendance in many, many meetings for several months now, working on it, so, very good. Seeing no further comments, I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
2 opposed. You got that. All right, C3.
Item C3 is a resolution ratifying the property tax increase reflected in the budget for operating the municipal government of the City of Victoria for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2014, and ending on September 30th, 2015, as required by Texas Local Government Code Section 102.007C, and declaring an effective date.
Council? Well, we have a public hearing, excuse me. We'll open the public hearing on C3 if anyone would like to speak to this item specifically. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we adopt item C3.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Of course, this is this legal language we're required to adopt. So then the text rate is the next vote. I don't see any discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Get that? 1 nay. Okay.
Item C4 is an ordinance setting the tax rate at a total rate of $0.5840 per $100 of property valuation, levying a tax upon all property subject to taxation within the City of Victoria, Texas for the 2014 tax year for the use and support of the municipal government of the City of Victoria, providing for the assessment and collection of taxes, apportioning said levy among various funds and items for which revenue must be raised, including providing a sinking fund for the retirement of the bonded debt of the city, providing for penalties and interest for delinquent taxes as prescribed by the Texas Tax Code, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing for savings, and declaring an effective date. This is the third and final reading on the tax rate.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on C4. If anyone would like to speak to this item. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $0.5840, which is effectively a 0.83% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
Okay. Very well read, Mr. Buckmeyer.
Thank you.
Clear. As always, as everyone knows, that's required language, so we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on C4? It's our last reading of it. Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Okay. C5.
Item C5. Go ahead.
May I
Oh,
make a
I'm sorry.
comment? I just
Go
have
right
a
ahead.
couple of comments. I can't let the moment pass since we're done with this. So, but I want to kind of recap, and hopefully Melissa will pick up some of these comments. I see her typing away.
Can't.
But, well, Paul alluded to it, but I want to reemphasize it. Adopting a budget is probably the single most important thing a city council does every year because it sets our course going forward. It's a little over 155 million. It's, I know the paper's been covering it, just the general fund at 49 million, but our total budget of 31 funds is $155 million, a little over, and that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of funds. So, but it's a very complex process. Of note, though, is the property tax increase revenue that we're bringing in is only $282,525. And I say only, I don't want to de-emphasize it, but we've talked before about how we're moving more and more toward that reliability on sales tax. One of the things I think is a huge accomplishment is we're at that 25% reserve this year. We finally made it, and I think it's important, especially the more we rely on sales tax. The budget that you've just adopted adds a little over $1.9 million in new reoccurring cost, which the three big programs in that budget are your street maintenance program, which I think kudos to you guys for the willingness to adopt a street maintenance program. It's going to move us light years ahead. We've not been able to do that in the past in a reoccurring manner, and I'm hopeful and confident that this council will continue to do that because the citizens are going to reap those rewards for that. The pay program for our employees, it's continually important that we pay our employees and we recognize what they do because they're out there every day making sure our citizens receive the service that you guys expect. But also that street sweeping program, I cannot wait to start sweeping those streets. It is noticeable, and I think this is a great program for us to offer. We'll have that contract back on October the 7th and start that quickly. So it's noticeable.
Probably so I'll quit bugging you about it.
No, it's very noticeable. I think Lynn's tired of me bugging him about it too. So we're going to hire 12 new firemen during this 2015 year. And here's what I want you to take away from this. In this current year, in the general fund, we have 463 full-time employees. In 2015, we're only going to have 469 employees. We're adding 3 additional employees, but I've just said we're adding 12 firemen, which means that the department heads sitting out there have done a yeoman's job in looking for efficiencies. We've reevaluated our positions, and where we can, we eliminate positions. And we don't continue to add to that number so often, that we're probably accused of doing. We don't do it. And in closing, Gilbert's here. I know Billy's here. I've seen Andrew. Did Billy finally leave, or is she still out?
He's right there.
So Gilbert leads this effort, and it's a tremendous effort. It starts in January, so we get about a 3-month break, but he'll be doing audit during this 3 months. So, but Billy, tremendous help with staff, and Andrew and Tiffany's not here tonight, but Tiffany does a great job too. This product that you have sitting in front of you is not possible without Gilbert and that staff doing that work. But I also can't leave without thanking you for your time that you've spent studying this budget. It's not an easy read. It's a very complex. Governmental financing is very complex, and you guys learn it and you move through it. But I also want to thank my department heads. They do a great job putting their budgets together. They look for efficiencies. They look for how to save money. They recognize that we're being trusted with the tax dollars, and our citizens trust us with that. And they make sure that we're enhancing livability every day. So I appreciate their job. So I'm glad this process is over with. I know our department heads are, so we'll get ready to come back on October the 7th and start another fiscal year. So, but thank you for allowing me those few comments.
Very good. Your comments are well put together and well taken. Good points. Okay, we'll go ahead and move forward to C5.
C5 is an ordinance amending Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code relating to fees, to amend the fee structure for the Parks and Recreation Department, repealing conflicting parts of existing ordinances, providing for codification and savings, and declaring an effective date. This is a first reading, so we will need a public hearing.
Let's go ahead and open the public hearing on C5. If anyone would like to speak to C5 specifically. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Council?
Move it up.
Second.
Motion second. Colby, did you have anything to add?
Here to answer questions.
Okay.
I have a
Just-
question.
oh,
Go
wait.
ahead. No,
Go ahead,
Mr.
Councilman.
Yars.
Well, quickly, I hesitate, but would just request, when you set by cost of program, that we kind of occasionally get a a feel for that? Tell us what you're doing with that once you go through a year and what you think those numbers are going to ultimately be or were. Because we're giving that discretion to staff and certainly want to follow up in a year's time or so, or 6 months.
Glad to, as we set them for each league, just bring that forth and let you know what we're setting those at. That's not a problem at all.
That's what I was going to ask.
City manager report, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Kind of along the same lines there. That proposed fee set by the cost of the program, how are you going to do that? If you only have 2 teams, I mean, is it?
No, sir, we have numbers that can change with us, that our T-shirts can, the cost of the awards can go up or down. That's ordered through a private business. We don't have a contract that sets those things out. Our umpires' cost may go up or down. It's simple things as the field liner, the chalk that we buy, those types of things. We will know in a short period of kind of what those are going to be, but to set that out through the whole year, I'm not sure. I don't have. An example would be as well is if we want to run a 10-game season or a 12-game season, those costs vary. So it may cost me $30 per game if I run an 8-game season compared to a 10-game season. That makes sense?
It does.
Okay.
How far in advance will you be publishing so that people can plan?
We will set our league fees up probably about 3 months in advance of each program.
Okay. And they shouldn't vary greatly from year to year?
No, sir. It just gives us the flexibility if we do need to go to say we get a lot of rain during the summer and our fall season, we have to shorten to a 6-game season or an 8-game season. It gives us that flexibility to change that rate at that time.
What are you anticipating for cost difference between where they are now and where you think they're going to come in?
The program this last spring did lose money in the adult softball side. I'd like to try to get that to at least break even point. I don't see a huge increase coming up, but we are looking at ways that we can do that, whether that's we shorten the amount of our postseason play or we shorten the amount of the league play and still allow postseason play. So that's something that staff is working through.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good questions. Anything else? I know I have a couple of things in here that I may work on. This is the first reading, and I've talked to city manager a bit. I will support everything, but the explanation of the fee change on that last page and some of the way the special event versus special event area, some of the language I found just slightly confusing. It's minor stuff, and perhaps the city manager and I can discuss it. I may have an amendment at the next reading. So I just want to
Mayor,
throw that
just
out.
to bounce off that, so you rent the special event area, but for $150, but then if it's a multiple day, you've got to pay $150 each day, including the original 150, plus it's 2 days. That's
Yes, sir. That
that's
fee is
300 plus 150. That's 450.
If you're speaking of one special event area, if you rented it for 3 days, it would be the 150 times 3.
Plus the
And so-
150 originally.
No, there's no plus 150. It's just 150 a day.
Because okay,
So
because it's
it'd be
just
450 for 3 days
because it's saying special event area 150 per day,
per day.
and then special event 150 per day.
That
That's probably
gives
the confusion.
That's part of what I wanted
Okay.
to
Right,
work on.
that's what I thought.
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, explain a special event in your mind.
Right now, we don't have the ability, if someone wants to, say, run a 5K, and they don't want to use the special events area to run that 5K, I have no ability to charge for a race that may start at the children's park or the challenge athletes area or the pump house. I don't have by ordinance an ability to give them a fee for that. And so that's what this creates, and it also anywhere else in the city. So if they wanted to run a 5K at the sports park, then now I can say this is a special event, and this is the fee to run that special event.
Okay. It's not tied to the special event area.
Correct.
Thank you.
That way I can work with the promoter in whichever way I
That's
need.
exactly
Well,
what I
and
was-
it may be just that we add Riverside special event area in front of that to clarify that.
That would help. Because I know they're using it multiple days, that event area. Over the weekend, 3 days, or Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. So are we charging for each day, and then what you're talking about?
And this, I think, I'll bring it up now under this item, although it's not directly related to this ordinance, but anytime we restrict access to a public park from the public, I have had concerns for several years about that. In other words, if you take a section of the park and gate it off and charge admission, that's a public park. So you're telling some members of the public they can't get in unless they pay. And that's always been a little bit for me. You know, you take Boot Fest. Anybody can walk down there. They don't have to spend a dime. And a lot of those downtown events, there's no fenced-off area that's restricted down here, and we need to accommodate that. We need to give people a way to do that. And so I think over the next few years that might work itself out. It starts with identifying some of these areas that you've identified. I like that a lot. It lets people know exactly what they're getting and what's expected, and so. But I will work. I'll try to have an amendment at the next meeting. So. Okay. Any other discussion on C5? And we have a motion and amendment. Okay. Motion is second, excuse me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you.
There are 2 items remaining on the consent agenda tonight. They are, first, the approval of minutes of the special meeting on August 28th, 2014, and the regular meeting of September 2nd, 2014. And fourth, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with SAP Public Services Incorporated to support the installation of necessary notes and patches on the city's financial and human resources software in the yearly amount of $29,304,000 and declaring an effective date.
Move we adopt D1 and D4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those items pass. D2?
Item D2 is a resolution awarding the purchase of a Fraser Type 1 14-foot generator-powered ambulance module from Fraser Limited of Houston, Texas through buy-board contract number 400-12 for $128,175, awarding the purchase of a 2015 Ford F-450 6.7-liter diesel chassis to Silsby Ford of Silsby, Texas through buy-board contract 430-13. And Mayor and Council, there is a misprint here. That should read $41,574.70. It's a transposition of those last 2 digits, 74 instead of 47, for a total of $169,749.70, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the purchases and declaring an effective date. So, Mayor and Council, if we could entertain a motion to approve this with that correction, I would appreciate it.
Motion that we approve D2 with the correction stating 41,574.70.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? I'm sorry?
I think Mr. Alvarez pulled it. Was it just for
Right.
the
Right, we wanted to
position?
fix
Correct the
that.
number? Okay, very
Yeah.
good.
I had a question. 10-year life cycle, does this one not need to go under reserve?
This is
2007 that we're trading?
the 2007 was phased out by mileage. It's 147,000 miles.
Are you going to keep it as a backup is what he's
Yeah,
asking?
it says in this reading that the typical lifestyle is 10 years, 8
Yeah.
years in full service, and then 2 years on reserve.
Yeah, we're trying to change that to 8 and 2 because we're seeing that in 8 years, we're already well beyond 120. And here, this was an example to 2007. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer if that particular truck is going to be kept in a reserve status or if it's going to be phased out.
Well, it says it's not. It says we're getting a trade-in credit.
Oh, we've got another unit that we're trading in.
Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're reading it correct.
It's a different unit. Is Daryl looking for some information back there? Okay.
Well, I guess the question, excuse me, Gilbert, the question is, are we keeping this ambulance in our reserve unit and trading something else in? Or are we trading this in? And if you don't know the answer, we can get it back to Mr. Balknight.
No, what we're buying is a replacement. What's coming off is not being traded in. We have a reserve unit that's already been taken out of service. If you remember when we came up here for the Alumni Association, we indicated we had 2. This is the second one that's going out.
This is the 2007?
Yeah, the
Yes.
7 one.
We had a
Okay.
2007 and 2005
Fine,
that were
okay.
both set to be auctioned off. And the trade-in for this particular unit is that second unit that was going to be auctioned off.
So we're not getting 10 years out of them.
The mileage is, you're reaching the
Yeah,
mileage limit
it's,
early.
it's not always just 10 years.
10 or-
It's also based off mileage.
Okay.
You got your answer?
Well, yeah, it's not typed up right then.
We'll do a better job with that in the future.
Well, that's just the current criteria, 10 years or 120,000 miles. We actually made a recommendation in this budget to city management to consider moving that back to 8 years because we're not seeing the 10 years out of those trucks.
So 6 and 2 or?
But that's just currently as it sits in the fleet's criteria, it is 10 years.
Okay.
That's the reason we use that language.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Council, further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of D2, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, that item passes. Thank you. D3.
D3 is a resolution awarding the purchase of a Spartan ERV pumper on a Spartan MetroStar chassis from Metro Fire Apparatus Specialists Incorporated through HGAC contract FS 12-13 for a total purchase price of $449,787, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to complete the purchase and declaring an effective date.
Move we adopt D3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just had one question about the total price of $455,319, subtracting the trade-in of $5,532, arrives at the number that we're approving tonight for the purchase of $449,787.
Yes.
Where is the $2,000 fee?
It's in
The
their,
HGAC administration fee?
it's in their fee to us.
In that 455?
It's in that,
It's
it's in
built-
that total price, yes,
It's
sir.
built into the 455,319?
319.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay. Any
This
other
isn't
questions?
the one,
Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
is not the pumper that we are going to order for fire station number 6?
Yes, this is.
It's coming out of the fire department?
Now, as you recall, I think last couple of meetings, we transferred money from the fire department into the construction fund to acquire it. So I'm not sure what the CM1 has, but the money's come out of the construction fund. The money was moved out of the fire station.
Because it's showing the fire department.
It's in a construction fund. Y'all approved that budget amendment, I think last meeting. We moved the ambulance money and we moved the pumper money.
Okay.
So your point is the CM1 was done before we did the budget transfer.
Dr. Tannerbite, it's showing the construction fund. That 3035 is one of our construction funds.
It's a construction fund?
Yes.
Well, it says cost center fire.
35 FIR, that's just, we come up with a cost center within the construction.
Was in the
fund.
construction? Okay.
That's going to be a cost center within the construction fund.
My bad, sorry.
Okay, we're all clear? All right, any other questions?
I'm just shocked at the depreciation value. The trade-in value?
Yeah.
Don't drive a fire truck off the lot.
Well, they're pretty
They're-
limited
they're-
use, aren't they?
They're run hard, too.
Well, that particular truck has had all its parts robbed. It's a 97, and we've had to, when we still had the other ladder truck, we were having to steal parts from it continuously, so it's a very stripped-down truck.
Very good. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Where are we here? Resolutions?
Resolution E1 is a resolution of reappointing members to the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission and declaring an effective date.
All right, so let's see what we
I
have
thought
here.
that was the library one. E1?
No.
My E1
Yep.
says library.
Library.
Really?
You've got them flipped.
All right.
CM1 does.
E2 is the one for the golden.
All right, well, would y'all prefer to take up the library first? We can do them in whichever order you please. They're both posted on the agenda.
We'll go in the order they are on the CM1.
Okay, so you'd like to do the library. So this is a resolution reappointing members to the Library Advisory Board and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so that's already all worked out for us. We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. E2.
E2 is a resolution reappointing members to the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission and declaring an effective date.
Move we adopt E2?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Any discussion? Thank you for your continued service, Ms. Solis, Mr. Alvarez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Item E3 should be a resolution appointing members to the Parks Commission and declaring an effective date.
All right, so we have 3 appointments for consideration, but we need to,
We have 5 applications.
5 total. Let me, we'll do our balloting process like we have in the past. Mr. Gush has ballots prepared. While he's doing that, of course, all of this is a matter of public record. He does keep these ballots if anyone's curious and would like to see how anybody voted. This is just a much simpler way for us to not get confused or whatnot.
The one up in the corner.
Please put a 1 up in the corner. And because there are multiple positions up, if you will please cast 3 votes by circling 3 names. And before you begin, Mayor and Council, I'm sorry, let me stop you for just 1 second. Late this afternoon, we received an additional application for the Parks Commission from former County Judge Helen Walker. She applied for several different positions, and due to a miscommunication in my office, I do not have copies of her application for you here tonight. So there is another person that you may choose to consider for this position. As I said, her application came in late this afternoon. It is well after the time that the other people had applied. But if you choose to write her name in to the blank, you are welcome to do so. She has applied for that position. If you will nominate 3 people, we will then tally the 3 highest vote getters will be the people who are put into those 3 slots, unless, Mayor and Council, you prefer another method.
No, could you go ahead and read the names off?
Sure. The 5 applicants are Diane Faxlinger, Kevin Henderson, Gail Repka, Lee Keeling, and Mike Rivera. And then, as I said, if you prefer to write in Helen Walker, that can be written into the blank below that.
And just a point of clarification. Ms. Walker called me and asked yesterday if she could apply, and I told her yes, that normally council will even take names up, and make nominations from the floor, so that's why she submitted it.
Yes.
We don't want, we're going to vote for all 3 at one time, top 3 vote getters get in. Is that what we're doing?
That's the plan, unless you have something different you'd prefer to do.
Are you doing top 3 or majority, or?
If we have a tie, we have to revote.
Okay, you're going to
Right.
revote.
That's
Okay.
why we brought
I'm
a 1
sorry.
on the top
Yeah.
of the ballot.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Pass them on.
Yeah, if you could pass it this direction.
Don't go far. put 3 circles around the same name.
Yeah. If I could count them that way, that'd work.
Yeah, I understand. It's just nice to have so many willing participants.
Oh, yeah.
I can remember a day when it wasn't that case. We had to go look for people, so.
I'm going to read the totals for each of the positions. Diane Faxlinger had 3 votes, Kevin Henderson had 3 votes, Lee Keeling, 5, Gail Repka, 3, Mike Rivera, 5, and none for Helen Walker. That means that Lee Keeling and Mike Rivera each had 5 votes, and I would recommend putting both of those names onto the resolution. And the other 3, Diane Faxlinger, Kevin Henderson, and Gail Repka, each received 3 votes. And so I'll pass a second round of ballots around, and this time we're voting only for one of those 3. And I'll read them again after you have the ballots in front of you to make sure everybody has a chance to. Thank you. So please cast one ballot this time. Please put a number 2 at the top of your ballot and cast one vote for either Diane Faxlinger, Kevin Henderson, or Gail Repka.
And of course, we have an executive session to follow the meeting. You all know that, so we will be here for a little while yet. Now, we'll be upstairs for that. Okay. You're getting pretty fast, Thomas.
We're getting better at this. All right, that is 4 votes for Gail Repka, which is a majority vote, 2 votes for Kevin Henderson, and 1 vote for Diane Faxlinger. So I recommend putting Gail Repka's name as the 3rd name on that resolution. And then we are considering a resolution appointing those 3 members to the Parks Commission and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I really don't see any need for discussion. I want to thank them for being willing to, everyone who put their name up and be willing to serve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, moving on.
Item E4 is a resolution granting a variance to sections 21-82A1 and 2 of the Victoria City Code relating to subdivision and development, which requires a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 50 feet respectively for single-family residential lot for property located at 1101 and 1103 North Street, as well as 606 North Troy Street, owned by Ramon Villa Estate, care of Tom Villa, and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion, we approve E4.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'm going to abstain. This is a family member.
Okay, understood. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And 1 abstention. All right.
Item E5 is a resolution approving change order 1 to the Victoria Landfill Closure Project with Environmental Industrial Services Group of Houston, Texas, to make an adjustment in the materials needed for this project, resulting in a contract amount increase of $59,054 and bringing the total contract amount to $2,808,844.27, authorizing the city manager or her designee to execute change order number 1 and declaring an effective date.
Council?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussions? Good explanation in the CM1.
Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Item E6 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Burns and McDonnell for the evaluation of landfill life, closure, post-closure, and landfill gas revenue in the amount of $34,356 and declaring an effective date.
Who we adopt?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion?
What's the scope of this project exactly? I wasn't quite sure. I got to it, but
What we're asking them to do, we've got several things on the table. As most of you may be aware, and I've talked about during our budget meetings, we've got landfill life to about 2032. So we want them to look at the closure project we're currently in the process of doing, what that's going to do to our liability, the life that we have left in our landfill. We have a contract with Republic that will run to about 2028. We want to make sure that whether it's Republic that continues to run our landfill or someone else, that we're in agreement at the end of that contract where we both stand, us and our contractor. We also would like them to take a look at our landfill gas. We have gotten everything from the company that was due up front. We've been producing gas since mid-March, April timeframe. So through some discussions with them, we want to make sure that what we're getting out of there is what they told us at the beginning of this process 4 years ago we were going to see in revenue and production out of that plant. This is a chance, we haven't had a chance to look at what their contract is with their end user. We want to see what that contract looks like. We also want to take a look at, as we move forward and look at expanding our landfill, which direction do we want to go? You know, what are our options to make sure that we always have landfill space for the city of Victoria and the surrounding area? As council knows, the closest landfill to us is 105 miles away. That would greatly increase our disposal costs or our cost to our commercial, residential, industrial customers to have to haul that trash rather than 10 miles, 105 miles. So all of those things are in the scope of this project. We want to get a better feeling for where we need to be in the future, where we are now, and then kind of what we need to do to place ourselves in the best place for the city of Victoria 20 years, 30 years down the road.
Well, back a ways, we bought additional land adjacent. Is this included in this study?
That is included in this study as well.
That would easily exceed the 18 years you mentioned earlier.
Yes, sir, but there's also the power lines that are back there that would have to be moved. There's a lot of things that we have to take into account. We can't just, take over that. And then there's the whole permitting process. I mean, you're looking at a 2-year process to permit new landfill space. So there's a lot more to it than us just deciding that we want to expand our landfill.
Just to add on to an existing landfill, it's 2 years?
We're going to have to permit new property.
Well, perhaps the recommendation would be to permit sooner rather than later?
And that's kind of why we're looking at this. We're looking down the road to 2032 thinking that's not that long in the whole scope of things. We would rather start the process now, get the land permitted, but as I said, we've got some main transmission lines that run right through the middle of the property. Those are going to have to be moved. There's a lot of things that we're going to have to look at before we get to that point.
Thank you. I didn't realize those lines would have to be moved. I'm
Yes,
aware
sir.
of them.
We need that way
That's, yeah, that in itself would take years, probably.
It could. We will work with, those are actually AEP lines, and we'll work with them to decide where would be the best place to put them, and then, of course, the expense.
Remember how long it took to move them on Sam Houston? A few feet. I think that was where it was 18 months or longer, so. Okay, no, it's good, we need to take care of that. It's a valuable asset. Most citizens, I'm sure, don't go out just to check out the landfill at any point in time, but it's very important to our future, so I'll be looking forward to see what they come back with. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Item E7 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to purchase playground equipment and pour in place fall zone surfaces for Boulevard Park in the amount of $73,764.68 from Fund Abounds of Sugar Land, Texas, via Buy Board Contract 423-13 and declaring an effective date.
Make a motion to adopt E7.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second, so this was fully reimbursed insurance for this equipment, so we haven't caught anybody yet.
Can I make a suggestion? We put a camera?
I was thinking that. I wonder if any of the neighbors had security cameras.
Well, it's a shame we just put that station in there. this year, or end of last year, early this year.
January.
And not only but a month or two later, somebody lights it on fire.
Very frustrating.
I'm glad the insurance is paying for it, but I sure wish we could find another tactic from the police department to see if we could protect that asset.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay.
Item E8 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Texas Department of Transportation regarding the adoption of TxDOT's federally approved Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program and declaring an effective date.
Will we adopt E8?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Second, any discussions? This was fairly well explained in the agenda. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Item E9 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with Texas State University for research to determine the potential effects of groundwater input combined with surface water on the Guadalupe River biota in accordance with the permit language in Surface Water Diversion Permits 18-3862A and 3606A in the amount of $58,125.39 and declaring an effective date.
We adopt this resolution.
Second.
Okay. For a motion, and second. I had to chuckle because this is a motion to pay for the study to test the water that we take out of the well put into the river. But that was a very technical description by our attorney here. It was, but it's required by TCQ. I think we mentioned that last time we were here, so.
It is a requirement of our recently permitted O'Connor water right during groundwater exchange. 3 weeks after groundwater exchange, we have to begin a study to look at how that may be affecting marine life within the river system. So this Thursday will be 1 week since we've implemented groundwater exchange. We'll continue to watch it. We won't actually issue a notice to proceed on this project, on this study, until we get to that 3-week mark. But once we do, we will need to pull that trigger, and this will give us the mechanism to do so.
Maybe it'll start raining, and you can stop pumping.
But this also includes existence of silica and other minerals in the...
Well, we're pulling those ourselves. We've
Okay.
removed that from this, and we're taking care of that in-house.
This is only the biota?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you, Lynn. This study, how much of a potential threat is it to our water exchange, in your opinion? The outcome, I mean, are we concerned about what the outcome's going to be?
In my opinion, it's very negligible. Of course, I'm not a biologist either, but in my opinion, it's very negligible. Yes, but it's one of the requirements of the permit is that they look at that. So we've done this before. We looked at it. Yeah, we've done a same study last year, and so it's a continuation of that. Basically.
No red flags in the past, so we don't expect any in the future?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's mostly to certify that we are doing no damage and that we all got to live on this planet. Want to don't kill off everything just because we're doing this. It's to certify that we're not.
Mayor, I have a couple of quick observations.
Yes, sir.
Your exchange is occurring at Site 1 on this map.
On this map,
Is where you're discharging the well water at Site 1, is that correct?
no, we're discharging at Site 2
Oh, so we're going to test above the discharge?
and below,
And
and at the discharge.
At the discharge, but at Site 3, don't we have wastewater, the regional plant, and the Willow discharging between 2 and 3?
Yes.
Does that make it, that's not going to give us, they're going to take that into account because then you've mixed basically.
By design.
Right, but
We
that's
wanna do
what
that.
I mean, that's the
That's what you
normal.
want?
That's normal
So you can tell the effect.
for that, right.
That's highly treated sewer going back in that river, too.
Well, it's very expensive sewer water going back
Yeah,
into the
it
river.
Well, we do have a before and after then and show there was no effect and that's it.
Drill it out.
Very good.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. Hopefully you won't have to use it, but I assume you will. All right.
We need rain up river.
rain upstream.
Not just on top of us.
That's correct. Now, city manager reports, we've already done our procurement award and our dog park discussion, and now some information.
Yes. Back when we did some annexation earlier in the year, we said that we were going to continue to look at potential annexations, and so Garrett's been doing that. So he has a proposal here.
Ooh, that's the wrong one. That one says spring. We'll get it in a minute. We'll get the right part. There we go. That one says fall.
So if council's okay with this, then we would notify owners October the 3rd.
October 3rd, yes, ma'am. What the officer is handing out to you has got a copy of the proposed annexation schedule, along with the maps. You can kind of see the general areas that we're talking about or looking at annexing. There are a total of seven areas, and I'll have a slide that'll give you a detail of what each of those areas are. I can tell you it's approximately 700 acres when we total all 7 areas together. So let's get into those. The first area, Area 1, is taking in some property, what we call the 59 Triangle, between Burrsville Road and between Houston Highway and 59, as well as the intersection up there in the area known as Skytop. Taking a couple of, as you can see down on the left side of the slide, it takes in a couple of tracks that are this is a little bit of a cleanup. These are the backs of some tracks where the frontage is already in the city limits. And then up towards the right side of the slide, the Skytop area would take in several commercial properties that already are served by city utilities and bring in that additional revenue that's just sitting out there on the edge of the city limits. I don't know if y'all want to let me go through all of them and then ask questions, or if y'all want to ask questions as we go through each area.
All of these have city utilities in Area 1?
All of these 7 areas are already served by city utilities. There are no proposed capital improvements to serve any of these areas.
I would just suggest keep going, and then we'll interrupt you.
Okay. The second area is some more cleanup along US 59. We did a little bit of this in the spring, and kind of one of the great things about our GIS system is it keeps getting better and a little more accurate. And so we've discovered a few more tracks that we're able to pull in. There's a few more pieces of tracks that are where the frontage is in the city limits and the rear portions of the tracks are not. So that's what this area is taken care of. Kind of moving back down a little further south, Area 3. There's a few tracks here that are dissected by the city limits. Current city limit line, it would take in some additional property along US 59 down towards the railroad or Han Road overpass there. And then also at Pleasant Green and Han Road would take in a couple of tracts of land that are divided by the city limits. One of them has a radio cellular tower complex on it, so bring in a little bit of revenue from that area.
What's the reason for putting these in the city limits?
Their tracks are partly in the city limits, or there is tax revenue that's just sitting out there that we can bring in. And most of these, they're already. This one is another example of something that's already served by city utilities. On Pleasant Green, the north side of the road is in the city limits, and for some reason or another, that south acreage is not. There's a radio cellular tower complex on it. Part of the frontage is in, and part of it is not. Top. I'll get a pointer here in a minute. Oh, there we go.
Question.
So this is the radio tower acreage. This part right here is already in the city limits, and for some reason the rear part is not. And this area down here is a tract that's partly in and partly out. It would extend our city limits down to this railroad line that runs along Han Road.
So that's commercial property right there?
It's undeveloped property.
So Jared, part of those tracks are already in the city limits, so we're just cleaning
Yes,
it
sir.
up in here.
Just kind of cleaning up.
Encompassing the whole track, just
Yes,
putting
sir.
it all, you're either in or you're out.
Yes, sir.
And that's one owner then? When you say the track, it's part in and part out?
It's one owner in many cases, yes. And when if you choose to move forward and we continue on this schedule, October 21st, I'll be back with a resolution authorizing you, asking you for authorization to a service plan. I'll have a draft then where you'll be able to see all of the ownership of all of those tracts of land. I'll give you a little more detail at that point. Let's see. What am I doing that wrong? Trying to, oh, there we go. Moving on to Area 4, this is a few tracts of land along Main Street. The southern track is the self-storage complex that's near Conti Lane. The access to that track is in the city limits, and the actual mini storage facility is right outside the city limits. So this annexation would take that storage facility in. Then moving up on the northern portion of this, there's a tract of land and a couple of houses that are served just north of West Tropical Drive and the West High School development. It would bring that tract of land in. And also up there at the top of the map would bring in the remainder of Lake Forest subdivision and the remainder of the Ball Airport right-of-way that's currently under the city's ownership. Part of the reason the city's recommended we go ahead and bring in the rest of the Lake Forest, we've been annexing that, as those of you who've been on council for a while remember, we kind of annexed that in these really small pieces of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 acres at a time. And there's a lot of paperwork that we go through and meetings we go through to do that. Might as well just bring the whole thing in. It's served.
I have a question for you on this one.
Yes, sir.
On the north side of West High School there, aren't you breaking up that track where you're putting now the front of it in?
We are.
And we're spending all this time cleaning up the others that are like that?
We are breaking this one up and following the existing city limit line that is already there. That also breaks some of that up. So, yeah.
That's a much larger track.
That's a huge tract. That tract of land runs an entire mile back towards the river. In fact, it's not even, the edge of the property line is not even on this map. It goes way back here. I apologize, this map doesn't show you the floodplain. There's also a piece, the floodplain is somewhere back in here as well.
It's in that track. I'm sorry, I was looking at the other map. Where is it at? Can you?
The floodplain is somewhere back in here.
Right, okay.
So it takes in what would be considered the most developable part of that, in my opinion, brings in any potential commercial or residential development we're likely to see is going to be up here where we have city utilities. This is Main Street, or US 87. Your water tower is right here. Okay.
Jared, did you miss a piece between 3 and 4? There's a little point sticking out there. Okay, no, that.
Which one, on Area 3?
Yeah,
Way down
it
here.
goes 4. Oh, that one right there?
Oh.
Got it in orange.
Yes, that's actually that's not going to be part of this, but that's a city-owned tract of land that was missed in the annexations when we annexed all of the city-owned lake property on the Lower Mission Valley, the road there. So we'll be coming back sometime
Picking that up.
and cleaning that up. But that's our property, so it's considered
Okay.
a voluntary
Not a big deal.
annexation, and
Are you going to get a letter too?
I will send you a letter.
Oh, okay.
Let this be your official notification.
Oh.
But that's another one of those cleanups we'll take care of. I'm sorry, I forgot that I left that on that map. You'll see that this fall as well. Okay. I don't know, my little clicker thing here isn't moving. Area 5, this is a small area at the intersection of Millette and Bianchi, or Bianchi, however you wish to pronounce that, road. There's city utilities up here now thanks to the expansion of the ranches of Terra Vista, which are here. Of course, this is Shalimar Elementary School. There are 3 houses and I guess a small business here, Beaux-Arts, that we're proposing you bring in. They're served by utilities now. So that's why we're
They're
proposing
tied
that.
into sewer?
No, sir, they're not tied in. They are, services are available. Let me use that term.
So if you annex them, now they're gonna have to expend money to,
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I mean, we could come up with a plan, I understand, but, okay.
Just like last time, I mean, if someone's got a brand-new water well or septic, they can use it till it's no good, then they gotta hook up. We'll have to come up with some agreement.
Let me move to slide 6. There we go. This is another one of the cleanups. This is up Ball Airport Road where we're currently building that road out. There are primarily two tracts of land here that will now be served with a city street. They already have city utilities running between Glasgow and Northside Road. It's the remainder, most of that is the remainder of Tuscany subdivision. Again, that's another one of those where we've been annexing them in small phases. Let's just make it easier for staff. And then there's the remainder of a tract there that's directly across Ball Airport Road from the Fire Station 6. So bring that property, the rest of that owner's property in the city limits as well. And then I've got one more area. This is another cleanup where we have a piece of property that's divided by the city limits line. This is behind Ethel Lee Tracy Park, where the future Benavides extension would run down towards Salem there. This is the remainder of the tract that is part of the original Home Depot development. So bring the remainder of that tract in as well. And I believe that is all 7 of the areas. Be happy to answer any questions. As I said, there's a copy of that proposed schedule on there. The reason we're bringing this up to you tonight is because if we move forward, we would need to send property owner notifications out to all of those affected property owners on October 3rd. And then we would be back for your first step of action on October 21st. And then, as we did in the spring, you would have your set of public hearings in November, and then with the actual ordinance reading in December. So it would about a 90-day process in there.
Have we sent out notifications yet?
No, sir. We wanted to let you know what staff was proposing first. So those notices wouldn't go out till October 3rd.
Okay.
How many property owners are we impacting?
I don't have that number. It's
More than 100? I doubt it.
I think it is less than 100 affected property owners. It's about 700 acres. Rough estimates of somewhere about $6.5 million in taxable value.
I would add that, a lot of these are still going to get agricultural exemptions if the owner avails themselves of that, so it mitigates that impact. Your comment about adding revenue, I understand why you would say that. I know that adding revenue, for me, when I look at this kind of thing, is not my personal sole reason. It's just more about orderly growth. With all due respect, there is a point in time where you must annex. When someone lives 3 minutes away from a fire station and 2 minutes from a school, and yet they don't have to participate in city, through city taxation, there's a point where it's got to happen to reap the benefits of being in a community. So we'll get feedback, I'm sure.
Well, in this case, too, we've got a sunk investment in those utilities that are running by those properties, and so
Right.
that's part of the decision.
There are cases where it also expands our ETJ reach as well, particularly on 59 in that Skytop area. That'll expand our reach about a quarter of a mile out towards Houston.
Okay. Good report, thank you. Is that everything for, okay. So we'll adjourn this into executive session.
The City Council will recess for executive session on the 16th day of September 2014 at 7:08 p.m. The subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows. Texas Government Code Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property interests due to the fact that a deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the city in negotiations with a third party. And Texas Government Code Section 551.071, consultation with an attorney on a matter involving pending or contemplated litigation or other matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Thank you.